With us now from Capitol Hill is California Congressman Adam Schiff. He is a top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, which is also investigating Russian interference in the last election. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So what are the next steps for your committee, and what questions do you have for Donald Trump Jr. today?
Well, I think the next steps in terms of this issue is we're going to want to have all the participants in that meeting, anyone who helped in organizing it and putting it together, come and testify before the committee. We're obviously going to want to see any documents, any emails. It looks like, listening to the president's son last night on Fox and hearing his lawyer today, that the defense is going to be, yes, we had an intent to collude with Russia. We wanted to get the dirt the Russian government had in an effort to help elect Donald Trump, but we were deeply disappointed in not getting it at that meeting. That's not much of a defense, and I think we need to look into whether there was any subsequent efforts, whether indeed we can rely on the representations about what happened at this meeting, because one thing we have seen over just the last several days, we can't rely on anything that Donald Trump Jr. has to say about this, because his story has kept changing as he had to confront the facts coming out.
Let me ask you, there's a new report from McClatchy that says the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, of which you are on, are looking into whether the Trump campaign's digital team, guided by Jared Kushner, helped guide Russia's fake news attacks on Hillary Clinton. Can you confirm that? What are you looking into?
Well, one of the issues that I think we need to explore is whether there was any help in terms of the fake news, the efforts to push negative news by the Russians, whether there was any coordination in that effort to target that, to identify where it would be useful to push stories up in people's social media feeds. I'm not saying that that's what took place, but the Russians use a whole variety of methods to try to influence not only our elections, but elections in Europe. And if there was a data analytical component to this in which there was some level of coordination that we need to look into, and to give you sort of an analogous piece of evidence here, in those emails, it's very significant that Don Jr. says, hey, it'd be most helpful to get this in the late summer. He's already talking about timing. So if there was any kind of coordination on the timing of the pushing of either negative stories or false stories by Russian social media trolls, that's something we need to know.
And can I ask you, because you're a former prosecutor, in this federal campaign finance law, there's stuff about soliciting a foreign contribution or in-kind contribution. Does that raise to that level for you?
Well, again, I think this is evidence that goes to the issue of collusion. The question is it sufficient evidence? And I think we need to do a lot to corroborate some of the evidence that we've received before we can draw any conclusions. But here, I think you have quite plainly, just in the four corners of these emails that have now been released and the authenticity is not in question, you have three central campaign people, indeed three of the most important people in the Trump campaign, who go to this meeting with the full expectation of getting help from the Russian government, and indeed have sent a signal to the Russian government they would welcome it, they would indeed love it. They've also made a comment about the timing that would be most useful, and they've talked about, frankly, admitted how disappointed they were that in this particular meeting they didn't get the dirt, the help they wanted from the Russians. So are there issues of whether there was a potential conspiracy to violate U.S. election laws? That is certainly a very real issue that needs to be investigated.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.